debate. Anyone who visits the West Bank will soon see the extent and scale of the Israeli settlement programme. As we've heard from the Honourable Gentleman, over 500,000 Israeli settlers currently live on around 150 settlements constructed on occupied territory, and it's generally agreed by legal commentators that Israel's actions in actively encouraging the settlement of the West Bank contravene the provisions of the 1949 Fourth Geneva Convention. The settlement programme was given some sort of spurious legitimacy by the US peace plan for the Middle East, which potentially paved the way towards a further major violation of Palestinian territory by annexation, and it was quite properly subject to extensive international criticism. The British government has made clear its opposition to the Israeli annexation plans, and I'd like to commend my right honourable friend for the stance that the Foreign and Commonwealth Office has taken. But, Mr. Deputy Speaker, it is good news that the Israeli annexation plan has been suspended after the recent announcement of normalised relations between Israel, the United Arab Emirates and the Kingdom of Bahrain. And yes, I give way.
One of the interesting points that was made at that time in the truly significant agreement was, and I quote, "a just, comprehensive and enduring resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict." So would my honourable friend join me in calling on the Palestinian Authority to engage with Israel and our Arab neighbours to use the emphasis of this historic agreement to negotiate a two-state solution?
Yes, I'm grateful for that intervention, and in fact I'll be referring to that in my speech, but I do think that this is an opportunity that should be seized. As I say, I think that this is an announcement that should be unequivocally welcomed. It represents a significant triumph of statecraft on the part of three important countries with which the UK has strong ties and the friendliest of relations. And it also gives hope for further normalisation of relations between Israel and other Arab states. It holds out the prospect of peace, and it is a moment that should be seized, I believe, by Israel as pointing a way forward that doesn't rest on a constant state of confrontation and conflict. Mr. Deputy Speaker, there will sadly never be peace for Israel or Palestine unless a sensible two-state solution is pursued and achieved. The US plan is not the way forward. It would amount to the shakiest possible foundation for a real and enduring peace. As for the United Kingdom, our position has always been clear. We support a negotiated settlement providing for Israeli security and Palestinian sovereignty based upon the 1967 lines, with agreed land swaps and Jerusalem as a shared capital. And I believe that that provides the best prospect of peace. However, there is one further action that the United Kingdom can take and should take, and that is the recognition of the State of Palestine. This House has already voted in 2014 to recognise Palestine's statehood, and I would suggest that now is the time for the British government to confirm that recognition. With Israel receiving its own recognition across the Arab world, the two-state talks would enjoy a fairer wind if the parties negotiating were sovereign entities recognised by leading nations such as the United Kingdom with global influence. The position of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, Mr. Speaker, has consistently been that British recognition of Palestine's statehood will come when it best serves the objective of peace. Mr. Deputy Speaker, that time is now.